A good day to each of you again, and here we are with lesson 11.2, combining three-dimensional shapes. Yesterday we learned about three-dimensional shapes. We learned about a rectangular prism and a cube. We learned about a sphere. We learned about a cone, and we learned about a cylinder. Today we're going to be combining three-dimensional shapes. So hang tight, and here we go.
Mandy stacks one cylinder on top of another cylinder. What new shape does Mandy make? Select the cylinders to stack them. Here's one way. Would this work? No, the top cylinder would roll. Select the top cylinder to turn it another direction. Will this work? Try stacking them. Yes, it works. Both cylinders must be stacked on their flat surfaces. What new shape does Mandy make? A cylinder. It has two flat surfaces and a curved surface. Carl stacks one cube on top of another cube. What new shape does Carl make? Let's stack the cubes. Will this work? Yes, since all the surfaces of a cube are flat, they can be stacked any way, as long as the flat surfaces come together. Now stack the cubes. What new shape does Carl make? A rectangular prism. It has 6 flat surfaces. 2 are squares, and 4 are rectangles that aren't squares. You can put shapes together to make new shapes. What are some ways you can do this? Try putting the rectangular prism on top of the cube. Click the arrow to try this. What if you put the cube on top of the rectangular prism? Click the arrow to try it. Notice that this shape is really the same as the first shape you made. It's just upside down. This shape would be different if you move the cube to one side. Try it. Now what happens when you place one square end of the rectangular prism on the cube? You'll need to turn the rectangular prism. Try it. Now click the arrow to stack them. This shape is different from the other shapes. What if you put the cube and the rectangular prism side by side? Click to try it. Which of these 3 shapes does the new shape look like? Select the correct shape. That's right. These 2 shapes are the same. So you can remove this one. These are 3 different shapes you can make by putting a cube together with a rectangular prism. Think about how they're the same and how they're different.
A shoe with a Q on it and a note card. Has anybody seen Genie?
It is I, Wonder Genie!
Do you know anything about the shoe and the note?
Only be the work of my arch.
We go.
It's probably got a puzzle on it.
Let's see, it says, circle the ways that make the same shape.
Very interesting.
Okay, now we are combining 3-dimensional shapes to make these new shapes. And we want to circle the shapes that look the same.
Yes, we do.
Now let's move this out of the way since we don't need these. All right, so what we want to do is we want to see how many flat surfaces each shape has, and we also want to see if we have sides with the same shape.
That Quizler
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's see. First shape, we have, let's see how many flat surfaces we have. We have 1, the one in the back is 2, 3, 4, 5 on the side, and 6 on the bottom, 6 flat surfaces. Okay?
Puzzling.
Now we have 2 squares, one here in the front and another square in the back. 2 squares. And also 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles. And notice those rectangles are not squares, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I noticed that.
So 6 flat surfaces, 2 squares, and 4 rectangles. That's a rectangular prism.
A rectangular prism.
Let's go on to the next shape.
I bet that Quizlers never thought we'd figure it out.
If you notice, Genie, or wonder, Genie,
That's right.
this one also has 6 flat surfaces. Here's 1, the back one 2, 3, 4, 5, and the bottom one 6. 6 flat surfaces.
Again, 6.
And 1 square. The back one is another square, 2 squares, and 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles. 6 flat surfaces, 2 squares, 4 rectangles. That is another rectangular prism.
Yes, it is. We're solving this puzzle.
Both shapes are rectangular prisms, so they are the same shape. We can circle these. Remember, we're looking for the ones that are the same shapes.
Yes, we are.
Let's move on to the next one. Okay? We have 1 flat surface, 2 flat surface, the back, which is 3
That's
flat
3.
surface, 4,
That's, yes,
5,
yes. Oh.
6.
And the bottom, right?
The bottom is 7, and there's one more, the side one. 8 flat surfaces. But, wonder, Genie, look at this. The front, that's not a rectangle. That's not a square.
It is not. That
It's not.
Quizler is so tricky.
It's not. So this one here is not a rectangular prism.
No, it is not.
So let's move on. We have another shape here. Again, 6 flat surfaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, the bottom 5, and the back. That's 6 flat surfaces. And the front and back are squares. 2 squares. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles. 6 flat surfaces. 2 of the surfaces are squares, and 4 of the surfaces are rectangles. Again, we have a rectangular prism. Therefore, let's just erase that and bring in my rectangular prism. Okay, so we have a rectangular prism here, which means this shape is the same as this one and this one.
So it is.
These are the 3 ways to make the same shape.
Okay, going in quickly to our workbook pages. Combine 3-dimensional shapes. How can you combine 3-dimensional shapes to make new shapes? First off, this is Mandy and this is Carl. Mandy stacks one cylinder on top of another cylinder. Carl stacks one cube on top of another cube. What new shapes did Mandy and Carl make? So, trace the shapes, write the names of the shapes. If you need, look at yesterday's work for the names of the shapes. You can put shapes together to make new shapes, just like what we saw when we did the interactive math just a few minutes ago. So here we are, using these shapes, combine these shapes together, and circle which shape each of them made. So these green ones, would we circle this one or this one? For the purple shapes, would we circle this shape or this shape? For the orange shapes, would we circle this shape or this shape? Once again, combining, it's the same exact thing. Combining each of these pairs together and circling which new shape we made. Now it might get a little more tricky on number 8. There are 3 shapes that are being combined. So think about it carefully. Don't get tricked. Now, looking at number 9, we see a real ice cream cone. What shapes made the ice cream cone? Well, make sure you circle the shapes that make this shape. Number 10, circle the ways that make the same shape. This is exactly like what we saw in Math on the Spot. And number 11, the last one, unless you go onto the practice pages, combine a rectangular prism and a cone. Choose all the new shapes you can make. So be very careful and don't get tricked.